This is clean bass. This is distorted bass. Guess which one actually translates across all listening devices? Hello, friends. Today we're going to talk about bass and why it's critically important to grind up and distort our bass to some degree. Traditionally, people have always said, do not distort bass. It sounds like crap. It's gross. That's because they're doing it wrong. So today we're going to dive deep, look at how to do this properly and why it's going to help make the translation of your song sound so much better on small and big speakers. And this goes far beyond just a bass line. You can also do these same approaches if you work in electronic music and you have a synthesized bass versus an actual bass guitar. The same concepts also go for kick drums and 808s and anything that is like a punchy bass. And if you're having trouble just getting bass to sound good in your mix in general, in the description I have a link to download my bass mixing guide. That is a complete start to finish guide that shows you exactly how to control the bass, EQ it, and process it so it sounds great in any song. Again, that's 100% free, and there's a link in the description. So why are people so afraid of distorting bass? Well, it's because there's a very specific thing you have to do to make sure it doesn't sound like garbage. If we just take a bass guitar, so that sounds like this. Okay, just a DI track. And we use just some stock distortion. This is just Cubase's stock distortion. The first thing you probably notice is that all the low end dropped out, right? There's all the sub. And it also has this weird buzzy, gross sound to it, right? The problem with distortions is they typically don't sound good with low frequencies. So to do this right, so that you maintain some of the clean low end so that it feels punchy and sounds tight, is duplicate your track. Okay, and we're going to call this is called splitting our bass. We want to roll off a lot of the sub frequencies for the distorted track that we're using. Okay, so here we're rolling everything basically under 200 hertz off. So now it's going to sound kind of tinny without this EQ. With it. Okay, so we were losing a lot of our sub information again, but now check out how it sounds with the distortion after that. It's a lot cleaner. Now compare that to without that cut. See how much more clarity it adds? That is the first key point. You have to get rid of the low frequencies to make it sound more musical. You can do the exact same approach with something like an 808. So here's an 808. Right, super punchy, but it's hard to hear it, right? If we use the distortion, it just feels like all the impact from the sub energy again is gone. So we add a high pass filter above it. We will clean up some of the distortion sound. Right? Listen to how the texture of the 808 changes. And it gets more and more buzzy and farty the more low frequencies we add in. So let's keep it high just so we're adding a little bit of texture to it so that we can hear it on a smaller speaker. Just something like that, okay? And now what we can do again, just like before, let's duplicate this track and let's get rid of the distortion. And now we can blend the clean with this distorted version to make it have a texture that we can hear on both small speakers and large speakers. Right, there's just the 808 without anything. Here's the distorted one. No low end. Together. Right, there's our impact, okay? If we get rid of that distorted track, it's hard to hear it, especially if we switch over to a smaller speaker, which I'm going to do right now. So much easier to hear it with that distortion track, okay? And then you can just balance the two tracks to get the right amount of grit added back so that your song will translate no matter what speaker it's played back. If it's a phone, earbuds, on a professional studio environment, or at a club, okay? we have to share the frequency range of the kick drum across more than just the sub region, because if you don't have a subwoofer, you're not going to hear this thing. So let's go back to our example with this song, and let's do a quick demo of what it sounds like when we have the distorted bass in with the clean bass track. All right, in this case, I'm going to be using Mammoth, which is a bass distortion that I really like the sound of. Again, we're doing that roll off around actually 300 hertz here, and so we're able to get this type of sound. Let's bring in the clean track. Okay, there's our sub energy. If we listen to just the clean DI track, and that might sound good by itself, but when you play it in the context of the mix, we're just gonna play this low DI track. Okay, and we have the guitars muted. Listen to how there's maybe some bass, but it's hard to hear it. You almost wouldn't even notice it being there, right? And if you have small speakers that you're listening to this back on, you might not even hear it at all. Let's bring in the distorted track. Now, when the bass comes in, you certainly hear it, and it actually sounds thicker and warmer and more in your face. Without the distorted track, where'd the bass go? The bass completely drops out. And you don't always have to have it so textured like I have it here. You can make it softer. It's just we need to add some sort of density in like the mid-range to make this bass guitar sound good on all different speaker types. Now let's do the exact same thing for this part where we have this electronic kick drum track on the verse. Sounds like this. It's very clean, right? That's going to be hard to hear on a small speaker system. So let's try to add a little bit of distortion and grind it up using the same thing we just did earlier. So let's duplicate the track here. Let's add in some sort of a high pass filter. So we just want to roll off any of the sub stuff so we don't get it fuzzy grossness to it. And then you can put your favorite saturation or distortion plugin on here. So let's just throw something I like from Waves. It's these magma tubes. I think they sound amazing. Cool. I don't want anything too grindy or too crunchy sounding or flubby. Just something to add a little bit more harmonic content in that mid-range. Cool. That sounds pretty good to me. Now let's adjust the location of this cutoff filter to find the sweet spot where we're getting a nice clean distortion where it's adding harmonics in the mid-range but not sounding flubby and farty, right? That's too low. It's gross. Cool. Like right here, there's a really nice balance of the texture. And now all we have to do is basically set this level to minus infinity, and we'll raise it up until it just starts adding more definition to the mid-range of that kick drum during the verse. So let's play everything back together and then raise the volume fader of this up until we can hear it very clearly. Here we go.
And the spiral of you thought you'd try to stay mine.
I think that sounds good when the vocals are present, but I don't like how we can hear the crunch during these quieter parts. Right, it sounds kind of flubby. So we can actually automate this to be quieter during that initial part, and then when the vocals come, it helps to add more texture to it.
In the spiral of you thought you'd try to stay mine.
That way we don't hear it in the more delicate part, and then it helps to reinforce the groove when the vocals are present. Let's listen to how that texture changes. Yeah, that's exactly what we needed, because now we have that reinforced mid-range on that section so that no matter what you're listening to the song, you're going to hear it. And in order for you to have good translation across multiple speaker systems, you have to add different frequency content throughout the entire frequency range of every instrument. So in this video, I taught you how to do that using distortion or saturation plugins on your bass instruments or kick drums, and how it's super important to add the distortion after you roll off the low frequency content so your distortion and saturation sounds musical. Remember, that's why most people avoided distorting bass and kick drums in the beginning. It's because normally with all the sub energy, it doesn't sound good. But all you have to do to clean that up is add a high pass filter and filter off the release sub frequencies. Depending on where you cut the frequencies off, you can really fine tune that texture and make it blend in with pretty much any song that you have. And remember, automation is your friend here. So if it sounds distracting in certain moments of your song, you can always automate that textured or distorted bass track away. As a reminder, I have a start to finish bass mixing guide in the description. It's totally free. Go and grab that. Hit the like button and subscribe. If you want to help support me and get some free perks at the same time, you can join the Raytown Productions members section, and that'll give you access to all of my free stuff like presets, courses, and videos that are exclusive to just my members. My name is Bobby Balo. I'm the mixing and mastering engineer at Raytown Productions, and I'll see you in the next video.